Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison here in almost March. I sort of almost. It's makeup for lost time year. So it's an extra February day, but we're gonna pretend it's March because March is the excitement. March is the swell. March is free agency. It's the combine, which starts tomorrow. Well, today when people are watching this, right?
I think people are there doing stuff. And then I think all of like the fun workouts for skill players for fantasy are this weekend.
Gotcha. So soon, very, very, very soon. We just had the rollover in MFL. We're not ready to talk rookie picks yet because there's going to be the combine. There's going to be the draft. There's so much that's going to change in rookie draft pick values before your rookie draft. So we'll talk about it. Absolutely. Don't worry. But we're not there just yet. So we're talking about the other fun March. I almost said madness, but that's not the right, that's not March Madness.
That's also fun.
That is something different. That is also fun. That is also in March is a good month.
It is a good month.
All right. I like it. All right. But we're going to talk about free agency and we're going to split it up for two shows at least, right? Like we're going to start with running backs this show. And it's going to be interesting because for a running back to be a free agent, they need to reach an age of which we are kind of out on them already.
Right.
But we're also choosing to talk about players that have produced at elite levels, that have shown that they're still worth something. So, and the fact that you're not scoring points it's still February, so I can say February, but March. So it's even tougher to value running backs, but these are names we need to talk about, and it's free agency and it matters. So we need to talk about it. So we're starting off with a player we knew was hitting free agency. There's no real enigma to this, that when Josh Jacobs got tagged, made that short-term deal, that it wasn't going to happen again, especially now when, look, we knew Garoppolo wasn't the long-term answer. But now that there's really no answer there, I mean, Aiden O'Connell, you tried your best. But Josh Jacobs is going to sign somewhere, and he's going to be the dude somewhere. As much as running backs are the dudes anymore, mostly, which is the scary part. Like, we knew in Las Vegas, Josh Jacobs just was the guy. Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, these guys weren't stealing touches from Josh Jacobs.
Right.
I mean, Josh Jacobs can end up Josh Jacobs in Dallas because Tony Pollard is also a free agent, but they have some, Deuce Vaughn, who's a young, fast guy that maybe he get you never know what these people are going to do, but Josh Jacobs deserves to have dynasty value, regardless of the fact that he's a 26-year-old running back. Let's move on. So let's talk about Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs trade. 12-team superflex. Josh Jacobs for the 209, Treylon Burks, and Ty Chandler. Josh Jacobs, 187.2.
I don't get that one, but
regardless, the 209 is at 117. Treylon Burks at a sad little 50. Ty Chandler, 26 for a total of 194. This has to be Josh Jacobs, right?
It's so easily Josh Jacobs.
Treylon Burks was my favorite wide receiver. I went back and forth between him and Garrett Wilson. It ended up being Garrett Wilson by the end of it, but I really liked Treylon Burks, and it has made me sad how little he's progressed throughout his career so far. Hopefully this new, what seems to be maybe pass-heavy offense will bring him out of his shell a little bit, but he doesn't have much value. 50 is a little hurtful, but mid-late second is the best you'll get for Treylon Burks at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is so we can't say we know because we don't know, but Josh Jacobs is going to get a job. And even if Josh Jacobs walks in at a 60% backfield share, he's good enough to do better than what this package gets you.
This package is disgusting. And there are actually a handful of very disgusting Josh Jacobs trades over the past few weeks. To the point where I had to make a tweet about it of like showing like these are some really disgusting Josh Jacobs trades that have actually happened in real dynasty leagues. Like there's another one in here that's Jacobs for Michael Mayer and a third. I don't know what that one is.
I mean, tight end premium Michael Mayer's probably worth the mid-second. Like that's a little not as terrible.
You want to talk about a tight end premium? Someone traded away the 112, a superflex 112 for Jacobs and Travis Kelce in a tight end premium league.
That rookie fever hit strong.
Yeah, and somebody else traded James Cook for Josh Jacobs and Najee Harris. And I get that you would take James Cook probably over both of those individually, but if you're able to just basically 2-for-1 the running back position,
yeah,
you know, if Jacobs and Cook can kind of cancel each other out and you kind of get a free Najee, extra depth, injury security, that's the kind of move I want to make in Dynasty. And so these Josh Jacobs trades are kind of insane right now.
Najee Harris could be the next Tyler Algier. We don't know.
Hey, yeah. Just wait till Johnny Smith signs with Pittsburgh. So
yep. Sorry, move. All right, so this next one is super interesting. It's still 12-team superflex. Amari Cooper, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Rodgers for Chris Olave. Cooper 242, Jacobs still 187, Aaron Rodgers 90 for a total of 520. Chris Olave at 612. I'll do this for Olave pretty much all day. Like if I want to get younger, I get it. You are not going to score nearly as many points when getting rid of Amari Cooper, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Rodgers. Those are point scorers. Their dynasty value is in the toilet. It takes 3 of them to not even equal Chris Olave's dynasty value. I believe in Chris Olave. I believe Chris Olave has the ability to be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy. I would send these old guys, if I'm rebuilding, pretty easily to go get Olave.
In a rebuild sense, this definitely makes sense. I'm on the other side. If you're in the middle of the pack
September
or contending, yeah, that makes sense too. But so I have Chris. I'm working on a video right now. I'm editing it of some of my, I shouldn't say favorite, some of the best players to sell right now in Dynasty. Chris Olave is in that video because this is a really pivotal year for Olave and for his dynasty value, to the point where it's going to decide whether or not the year 3 like breakout for fantasy matches with his fantasy value, or if he's just like Terry McLaurin, you know, which Terry McLaurin, fantastic wide receiver, horrible situation, and then purposely chose to stay in that situation by signing a long-term deal. Olave is attached to Derek Carr for probably the next 2, if not 3 years, because of the whole restructuring that they just did and pushed all of his cap space down the road even more. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, if Olave's situation doesn't improve, Derek Carr doesn't get better for Olave, we're looking at Olave's value dropping to probably the teens of wide receiver. Like he won't be a top 10 guy anymore. He'll be like a mid wide receiver too.
Yeah, he'll probably start hitting that like DJ Moore area of what he used to. Well,
Panthers
years ago, DJ Moore.
Yes.
Like that wide receiver 16 to 18, where it's like he hasn't,
but he still could.
He probably won't this year, but he could.
Exactly. Yes. And if we're talking about another mediocre, fantasy season in 2024, I mean, Amari could outscore Chris Olave again, like he's done for the past 2 years. Jacobs could outscore Olave individually. Aaron Rodgers, I think it could be in for, not maybe an Aaron Rodgers season, but a back end QB1 or top 15 fantasy season, well within the range of possibilities for him this year. I mean, I think this is a fantastic trade to get off of Olave if you are a contender and you're looking for points and pushing towards 2024. In the rebuilding sense, I understand just shedding all the age and getting Olave.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you that, and I said in the first place, like this is a lot of fantasy points, but we don't know Jacob's situation. All of the positive stuff we've heard and seen, we haven't seen Rodgers play football yet, and Cooper's fine, so like there's still just a lot of iffy and old when put together in Dynasty is very, very scary. And that's why I would say this isn't something I want to do right now. But I get it. If you are the kind of again, this is not me, and I never will never say I do things the right way, because there is no right way. And I will never say you should do things the way I do. I don't care about lineups. I don't care about positions in the non-point scoring season. I just want to bring value to my team. Of course, very league specific. If I know there's a league that values quarterbacks much, much higher than they should, I'm less willing to throw a quarterback out because I know it'll be harder to get one back. But like if you have a league that is very open to moving all of these pieces, like just move everything around, I don't care about my lineup. I don't care about positions. I don't care if I run into July with 0 tight ends or 0 quarterbacks. But there are absolutely people who in March love to hit that submit lineup button and click the 10 or so names to see what their lineup looks like. And that's absolutely fine. If that's the way you want to play, that's the way, again, no knock against it. It's just not the way I do it. And if that is the way you play, man, you love this package side.
Right. Or if you're in a league that doesn't trade a lot, like you're like,
yeah, exactly.
It's really hard to get trades done, and you're looking at you actually need to kind of look at your lineup because you can't really get deals done. Yeah. This would be a good way to do that. But I do agree in the other sense, if you're in a really trade happy league, you can trade all 3 of those guys for Chris Olave and then use Olave. Maybe you don't necessarily want to keep him, but if you can use him to springboard to a Garrett Wilson or a Puka or up into the top tier of Amon-Ra or Jamar Chase, it's probably easier to use Olave as a singular piece than it is to use the other 3, but you're just springboarding, your way up to the top, essentially.
All right, let's see who our next running back is. I love when I don't look ahead and just, I should have seen Saquon coming. I mean, if there's a chance Addison and I can talk about Saquon, we're going to talk about Saquon. Let's just put that out there.
Should I grab his Funko Pop and put it like in front of my camera?
Yeah.
Right behind me.
Like put him on your shoulder.
I don't know about that, but
we have seen Saquon produce really, 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 really well on a really, really, really bad team. This leads me to say I don't really care where he lands as long as it's not Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith.
Facts.
I mean, that's it's just.
Can you imagine him in the Chargers, on the Chargers in the Greg Roman offense? Oh my goodness, dude. With Jim Harbaugh as well too. Like let's just run it 50 times a game with Saquon Barkley. And when we do throw it 20 times a game, 7 of those are going to Saquon. Perfect.
I will be happy with nothing else at this point. This first trade, however, is so interesting. 12-team superflex, Saquon Barkley and the 112 for Rachaad White and the 108. Saquon Barkley is at 357, the 112 at 204 for a total of 561. The 108 at 325, Rachaad White at 257 for a total of 581. I love Saquon, man, but like I'll take that earlier pick in Rachaad White pretty easily. And Rachaad White, you buy back 3 years, which I don't even know if it matters anymore because 25 is old already anyway. But Rachaad White has shown that he's their dude there. That they've never really even tried to give carries to anyone else. So he'll have that volume. Yeah. And I mean, Evans is probably gone. I firmly believe they're bringing back Baker. It would be weird if they didn't at this point. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think much changes in that offense. So, I think you're still getting probably a top 10 running back season out of Rachaad White. Regardless of where he lands, you're probably also getting a top 10 running back season out of Saquon Barkley. Again, both of them assuming health. And with running backs, I care about 1 year, 2 at most. I think they're both good, and they're both good for the next 2 years. That just give me the 108 in a super flex league, which is going to either be a quarterback or Brock Bowers or something that's still very good. Similarly enough. I get that there's a 100-point difference in the analyzer between them, which honestly isn't that much, but it's a little still decent enough, but they're close enough that I don't think I discriminate and just give me the earlier pick.
Yeah, that's basically the exact whole thing that went on in my head. That, the benefit with getting Rachaad White here is he still has 2 more years in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense on his rookie deal. So when, we fast forward, this year, wherever Saquon Barkley is, fast forward another year, Saquon is now 28, turning 29. Rachaad White is still in his final year of his contract on his rookie deal with the Buccaneers, while still being guessed at 26 years old. But at least we know that he's on his rookie deal. And then he kind of enters free agency from there. Saquon's value is kind of at a point where it's never really going to go up because of that age. Rachaad White's value could probably go up. It's going to be rough. Like, he's going to really have to be performing really, really well. Like, he's going to have to start turning into like what Aaron Jones kind of was a few years ago, to where his value could kind of rise from there. But I agree. Like, they're basically close enough that just give me the 1.08. And that 1.08 in the Superflex could turn into a really pivotal pick by the end of the NFL draft, depending on what happens with JJ McCarthy. Because we're getting a lot of news right now that McCarthy is being viewed very highly in the NFL circles. We have a lot of teams in the top 12, top 15 that need quarterbacks. So if McCarthy ends up landing with the Vikings or, the Broncos, or he gets picked top 10 to the Falcons or the Raiders or the Giants, I don't know, then either you're getting a quarterback who's drafted top 15 there at that pick, or McCarthy's going to get pushed up, and then you're going to get Odunze or Bowers to drop. So if you want, I would rather just take the shot on that happening than the 112 is probably going to be in the middle of a big tier of wide receivers, and maybe a running back gets bumped up, and maybe we'll get another quarterback, like if Bo Nix goes as well too, or Penix or something like that. But the 108 could be a really good pick. So I want the higher pick as well with the similar running back.
So the next trade we have is Saquon Barkley for George Pickens and Joe Mixon. Barkley still in at 357, Pickens 276, Joe Mixon 106 for a total of 383. This is one of those right in theory, wrong in practice moves for me. I love taking a running back that's still somewhat highly valued, downgrading a bit, and getting a young wide receiver out of it. I honestly don't even hate getting Pickens right now. I mean, I know last year and change has just destroyed our taste for Arthur Smith, but he was a really good OC for a long time. Like, we liked his offenses in Tennessee, and
AJ Brown did well with him.
Yeah. Was it Cleveland? Was he there for a while? Like that's feeling familiar. I can't remember anymore.
Man, I don't remember what he did before Tennessee.
Yeah. My brain is just, I've lost the ability to retain stuff for that long. So I'm not like, and Pickens on a terrible team had a pretty decent season. And of course, a lot will matter about what quarterback they bring in. So I don't really hate the idea of bringing in Pickens. It's just downgrading to Mixon is too much for me because, I mean, they're the same age. They're in a very similar situation where we probably don't know what team Mixon's going to end up with. Mixon is not as, I don't want to say talented, even though I believe that's probably true as well, but there seems to be more left in the tank for Saquon than there does for Mixon. So Mixon, if they were, both of these players were to walk into committees, Saquon would easily be the 1A, Mixon would easily be the 1B. Not the same committee, just whatever they walk into. Because, man, them two in the same backfield would be maddening, but a lot of fun to watch. I think that running back needs to be someone I feel better about their production, not even necessarily their situation, but like knowing that they would walk to somewhere and have a majority of the workload. And I don't feel that confident in Mixon anymore. So again, good in theory. I don't like the players this turned out to be.
What if it was Kamara and Jaden Reed?
I like Reed better than Pickens. Kamara, I believe, is also a free agent, isn't he? Or
no, he has one more year, I think.
Or maybe he's cuttable. I remember they're talking about him.
I think he is cuttable.
But yeah, because I still also believe that Kamara is going to go somewhere and be the 1A if he is. And he still probably should be in a share. Like, I was never really on board with Kamara, the workhorse, even though it was fun to watch because of that dude is just so good. So I would feel better about that for sure. And that the wide receivers is absolutely probably just a personal bias thing where their value is probably rather similar. Like Reed might be a little bit higher just because of the season they came off of, which production-wise, I don't believe was all that dissimilar, but just we definitely felt differently about it between the two of them. But no, you're right. Exactly. Like I feel better about that trade than I do this one.
Okay. Yeah. That's kind of the same way that I felt about this too. Like the right in theory, wrong in practice is like a perfect way to sum this up. It's just the players for me. I would love to do this with a handful of running backs, like if you can go down to Rachaad White or to Javonte Williams or even down to like Josh Jacobs or something like that. Tyjae Spears might be another good option too. And you can get another younger-ish wide receiver that is also going to produce. Totally on board with that. It's just these two players specifically, I think, is not the way to go. If it was Joe Mixon, I would need somebody I like better than George Pickens. If it was Pickens, I would need somebody that I would like more than Joe Mixon,
Yeah, exactly. All right. I love this. I have absolutely no idea who this third one's going to be, so I'm very excited for it. Good. Derrick Henry. I love it. Let's talk about it because, first of all, when I open up dynastyleaguefootball.com because I have my subscription, as you all should as well. Every time I open it up, on the front page, the list of the player news, I just see Derrick Henry speculated to Baltimore, something along those lines, or Baltimore interested in Derrick Henry. And like I started sweating a little bit.
That would be it. Can you imagine him in the Greg Roman offense in the chart?
Honestly, I want someone who's better at catching. Like I want Saquon there. I want someone better at catching passes. But like the Ravens don't throw to the backfield very often. Even though we've seen Derrick Henry is capable of doing it. He had that one season where he had a decent amount of catches. But like that power running behind Lamar. Like, remember what Gus Edwards was able to. Gus Edwards, not to disparage the bus in any way, shape, or form. And if you're old, I apologize. I should have said Gus Bus, not the Bus. The Bus is a very different running back. I'm still down on acquiring Derrick Henry. I think it's a great move. And he is a running back I probably would feel fine acquiring in the non-point scoring season because what it would take to get him shouldn't be a lot. So let's look to see what these trades are. The first one we have is 12-team superflex, and it is Derrick Henry for Marquise Brown and Rashid Shaheed. Caution. Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal because right now, Derrick Henry is worth 94. What? Now, okay, the unfortunate part of this is Derrick Henry's ADP is going to be in the 300s. Like, this man is probably getting drafted in the 47th round. I know those numbers don't line up. I'm just making up really high numbers as I go along. Because he's old. He's a 30-year-old running back. Don't care. So his analyzer value is not going to match what it should be just because of that alone. Hollywood Brown is in a very interesting situation. Free agent, 26 going on 27. Coming off of, I don't even know why it was that bad of a year. Like, let's take the first half of the year out. Why was he so bad when Kyler came back? Was he hurt?
Oh, I don't know. I just
that's what scares me. And then Rashid Shaheed was fun every once in a while. If you actually started him on any of those games where he caught like 2 for 127 and 2, good for you. Because I started him every time he went 2 for 13 and 0. So
you discount Gabe Davis.
Yes, exactly. So when I'm looking at this, would I love to just do it for Hollywood? Yeah. Would I throw in Shaheed to do it? Yeah, that's fine. It's just another roster clogging wide receiver 4 or 5 that you really don't want to have to start when it comes down to it. So I would do this to go get Derrick Henry because I do believe Derrick Henry's getting a job, and I do believe that he'll do well where he goes. Now, I also am a very big Hollywood Brown fan. I'm a big fan of the player himself. A lot more will have to go into wide receivers doing well, especially in new situations than running backs. And I know he's a vet in the league. He's by no means new to new teams as well, no less new offensive coordinators, because he was in Baltimore for a while, and that got a little scary. Then got to Greg Roman, then ew. So I'm not super worried about Brown in general, but like if I had to choose between Hollywood Brown and Derrick Henry, I'm taking Derrick Henry. And like I said 3 times already, Shahid's not going to make me change my mind on that.
We're in complete lockstep, basically, for this entire episode. I mean, I think this is a great trade for both directions. If you are trying to get a little bit younger, you're trying to move off of Derrick Henry, I don't really know if you're going to get much better than Hollywood Brown, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
It would have to be a mid to higher-ish second that you kind of just hopefully get lucky on. Yes. I shouldn't say lucky, but like hopefully you get lucky and hit on it and you draft Rashee Rice and not Jonathan Mingo with that second round pick, you know? Like that would be kind of the only way that you could probably make out more than getting a Hollywood Brown. Because Hollywood does have a bunch of upside. Like he could stay with the Cardinals. They could draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Now he's the wide receiver too, seeing single coverage because you're going to double cover Marvin Harrison Jr. because it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And Harris and Hollywood could kind of go back to the role he had when Nuke was there, right? With Kyler Murray fully healthy. Or I can spin that same exact tale if he were to go and sign and be the wide receiver 2 on a lot of different teams. Yeah. Like if he were to go to the Bills to replace Gabe Davis across from Stephon Diggs, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
That'd be phenomenal. But at the same time, if you're just kind of done with Hollywood, maybe he's your 4 or 5 that you kind of bought cheap heading into last year, didn't really do much for you. You want a running back. Derrick Henry is a fantastic asset to go get in a 1-for-1 deal with Hollywood. Because I don't know if you're trading for a much better running back with Hollywood than Derrick Henry, you know?
Yeah. So let's move on to the next trade, which is going to be a very interesting conversation because I know this is something that a lot of people want to do in theory, and I don't have the guts to do it in February, March for sure. So the trade is the 107 for Deebo Samuel and Derrick Henry. The 107 coming in at 362, Deebo 348, Derrick Henry 94, total of 442. So this is the usual. The 2 side is, valued over the 1 side by a decent amount. 80 points it's practically by Derrick Henry, right? Deebo pretty much equals the 107, though I doubt that trade gets done in real life, but that's not, I guess that is sort of the point of why this trade got done. When you're sitting at the 107, okay, no, hold on. When you earn the 107, when you are like the first team eliminated from the playoffs, the first team that didn't make it, and you're like, you know what? I had a good team. I can get better. Let me go get some players and take away the risk of making a rookie draft pick. It scares me. I have to be honest. I know it is legit the opposite of what I just said. The risk is in the pick, but trading away rookie pick value right now, especially the 107, which is practically the line for the top tier right now, which of course, if McCarthy does get drafted early, that pushes back to the 108. Weirdly, I think it loses value a little bit because it's not that line. It's not the last pick in a tier, so people are more likely to go after the 108 instead of the 107. But I don't think, while I understand the value of this trade, and your team is absolutely better for having Deebo and having Derrick Henry on it, I can't send the 107 for them right now. And I would absolutely send them both for the 107. I will probably regret it on a competing team when August rolls around. But to me, this is the pick.
I think people don't want to recognize that there is risk with the player side on this as well, too. Like not even mentioning if Derrick Henry were to sign somewhere not amazing like Baltimore or the Chargers or whatever like that, and he kind of plays some like weird David Montgomery role or something, but like if Henry were to get hurt or anything like that, or if his production drops in any sort of way, Deebo has shown a history of injury as well too. Maybe he's not as efficient as he was this past year. Maybe, the Niners offense just in general drops a bit in efficiency with Brock Purdy not on a tear the entire time. And, Ayuk is still there potentially too. Like, there is still risk in sending away a rookie pick for two players that are 28 years and older. And of course, I mean, there is risk with drafting that player. I mean, the 107 last year was more than likely Quentin Johnston. So if you could say here right now and say, would you rather have Quentin Johnston or Deebo Samuel and Derrick Henry? Every single person would pick Deebo Samuel and Derrick Henry. But I mean, that same player could still be, Jordan Addison, could be Zay Flowers, or maybe you got lucky and got Jackson Smith and Jigba. It could be even Dalton Kincaid. I feel like is not a terrible pick compared to these other two players. And in this year's class, if that's Odunze or Bowers or McCarthy, like, that could be so much more secure and valuable this time next year than Deebo Samuel and Derrick Henry. So I agree with you. I would keep the 1.07 in this instance. This is not how I want to trade out of the 1.07. Even if you are a contending roster, you earn that 107, lost in the first round of the playoffs. There's just, to me, I think that there are smarter things to spend that 107 on.
Thank you for putting into much better words what I was trying to say.
Yep.
That's what you're here for. Well, I scrolled down and I got excited that I saw something, but that's not this show. All right, well, we're done talking about free agent running backs. So this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.